It's a revolution, as my gamers are heard screaming from time to time. Or so we thought they were, but we haven't heard that call in a long time now, have we? But I mean, games are better than they've ever been before. Is this the end of things getting better? Is it all just status quo from here? Oh, hey, Zeo. Whatever will we do? But seriously, when was the last revolutionary change in gaming? If you don't know already, you're listening to the Sonuvageek Podcast.
Son of a geek!
And I'm your host, Spencer. Viva la revolution! And joining me this morning evening is a man more toxic than a teenager's mattress. And if you ever ask him if he believes in evolution, he'll ask you how else would Charmander become Charmeleon. It's Zeo.
Just get him to level 16. That's how.
How you doing?
Great. How are you, Spen?
I am fan-freaking-tastic.
And my furnace decided to kick on at this moment, so excellent.
Your furnace? I don't even hear it.
Well, my mic does. I'm watching the spikes.
So, revolutionary games.
Yes. Some games are revolutionary.
Yeah, and some of them are not, but they appear that they could be.
Yes.
Which is, it's hard to really find which ones they were. Because when we first started talking about doing this podcast, I sent you a massive list. Yeah. And you were like, Spencer, I don't know if some of these fit. And then I look back at them and I'm like, you're right. It wasn't revolutionary. It was just a really darn freaking good game that people loved.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that could be revolutionary on its own. Like, maybe it didn't start a certain genre, but what makes it revolutionary isn't necessarily the original idea, right? It's about what makes it,
what it does, and how it changes things.
Yeah, how it changes things. Yeah. Which
I 100% agree with you. So we've both put together some lists of some revolutionary games, and it's going to be interesting to see. I believe there's a few on my list that you disagree with.
Yeah.
And I saw a few on your list that I disagree with, so it's, the gloves are coming off today,
That's
my
right.
good people.
I'll be happy to prove you wrong.
Well, as host and superior man over you, why don't you take it first?
You know, I should have never let you just be the host of this podcast. Some part of me regrets it.
I was late writing the intro for this one, and there was a chance that you might have, but then I realized
I should have just hit the record button and took over. Welcome to the Sonuvageek Podcast. I'm Zeo. Here's my co-host Spen. He's trying to come up with an intro.
See, it's just not the same.
Yeah, it's true. You're not good at it. I'm just kidding.
I'll replace you someday.
We'll see.
So, we should first make sure everybody knows there's no way that we're going in order of what's the most revolutionary, what's the least revolutionary.
Yeah,
we're just talking about revolutionary games.
Yeah, and again, the experience can be different for both of us, because I think I did previously look up lists of revolutionary games or things that have changed genres on the way, and I tried to come up with games that weren't necessarily on the list. Now, granted, I do have games that are on the list, just because you can't avoid them. You know, some games really did revolutionize gaming.
Oh, yeah.
And I do gotta say, probably the first one that always comes to mind when I think about what changed things. And I think it'd be smart to start with the obvious, Mario 64.
Oh, yeah. That's the first one on my list, you bastard.
Yeah.
Wait, can we swear on this?
I don't see why not.
Is that a swear?
Nah.
All right, cool. Sophie, you're not editing this, but cut that out.
Shout out to Sophie for being our awesome editor.
Yeah, she's fantastic. She edits all of our Fortnite Game Night videos.
And our Let's Plays.
We're not going to talk about the Fortnite Game Night, though. Zeo cheats.
So I cheat. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so Mario 64.
Yes.
One, it changed the entire Mario series. And then two, wasn't it? I believe it was a title launch for the Nintendo 64, right? Like, it came out with the console?
I think so. I want to say it did, but I don't know for sure.
And I want to say it changed platformers as a whole, because it went from 2D platforming, and I believe this may not have been the first, but to my recollection, it is the recollection. To my memory, it was the first 3D platformer. Like, it no longer took the 2D space that you got from Mario Bros. 2 and 3, and whatever games came before. Like, it changed everything.
Well, did Donkey Kong 64 come out before or after Mario 64?
I'm pretty sure it came out after.
It had
to be around the same time.
Oh, that all depends on if Mario 64 was launched.
I want to say Mario had to have come out first, because it was more of a flagship.
Guys, we obviously know what we're talking about. Don't question our authority.
100%. Yeah, we're experts. Anyways, Mario 64 stands out more than Donkey Kong 64, just because bigger audience for Mario. The game changed. It changed how you did 3D, or it changed how platforming worked, and then it also, like, 3D worlds were still new during that time frame. Like there are some games that existed, but this just created a whole new outlook on the Mario world. It just took it to a whole new level. I mean, and like people still play it today. You can go find Let's Plays of people playing Mario 64 today because it's just one of those games that will stand the test of time. Just because, one, it changed everything about how you played them, and then it also just added new elements to make it more fun. It just created so much new experiences that you didn't think you would get out of a Mario game at that time. Now, it wasn't on my list, but I put it out there just because it was it's something we have to talk about. So I imagine you have a much more vivid description than me rambling on saying the exact same thing 3 times.
Well, no, I think you picked up on a lot of good points, because Super Mario 64 basically found a way to make it work as a platformer focused on singular goals. And it did an absolutely fantastic job at that. And I would say, yeah, it hands down, it changed how we saw 3D platformers. I mean, we didn't really see them before that point.
Right.
To the degree that Super Mario 64 took it.
Well, I mean, they may have existed before Mario 64. It didn't become popular until Mario 64. I think we probably wouldn't have had games like Spyro or Ratchet and Clank or, you know, Sly Cooper or something like that without Mario 64 or Banjo-Kazooie, you know? Those types of games.
That's very possible.
That people hold very near and dear probably wouldn't have existed without Mario 64. I'm sure something would have come along, but they wouldn't be as popular, I don't think.
And another one that was, I would consider just as revolutionary, that came out just shortly after it, might not have been the same either, which is the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
Because that one, like, it basically changed how everyone saw and expected the size and scope of what a 3D game could be. Like, right. It was amazing when it came out for its time, just the stuff that it could do. But the biggest thing that I would say the Ocarina of Time, I know I'm kind of jumping ahead, but we've got so many games to get through. No,
absolutely.
We don't want to stick too long on a single one. But the biggest revolutionary thing the Ocarina of Time did was the Z targeting. Or, sorry, Z targeting for you, Zeo.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It created the aim. Instead of looking left and right, you could go up and down.
Yeah, because I know there was a lot of stuff. There was some, if you get the chance, look it up. There's some development videos of Ocarina of Time when they were doing some concepts for it before. And it wasn't originally 3D in the way that we see it. Everything was kind of set stationary in like the same axis. And eventually they just, I don't remember if it was an accident or if it was just some guys playing around, but they found the Z targeting, and it made the game capable of all of the different things that it has now, with all of like the grappling hook and the aiming with the weapons. And it just, it's amazing. I mean, we don't see it as much nowadays in games,
and I gotta
but
say,
it's definitely still around.
They also like took a leap of faith and changed, because Ocarina is is it the third Legend of Zelda title? Because you have Legend of Zelda and then Link to the Past. What came out between Link to the Past and Ocarina?
I have no idea.
There might have been another one, but I don't recall them. So I'm going to say it's around the third.
It was like the third or fourth game.
Yeah, it was definitely early in the series, but this was the first one.
Somewhere between the third and the 11th game.
Yes, exactly. But like the first one was top down, and like you had these mini maps that you can go in and out of. And then the second one was obviously a side scroller that with the mini maps you can go in and out of. And then this one introduced the third dimension of it. So like you could also run around, but also correct me if I'm wrong, it was very big open world. There was very few, I don't think there's any loading screens, were there? Maybe for cutscenes, but was there any between maps?
I'm sure there was, but they found ways to hide it.
Yeah.
Because thinking back to it, it all felt seamless and quick.
Yeah, I mean, nostalgia is a tricky thing, but yeah, it makes it seem like, I feel like that game was more seamless and everything, because obviously between, in the first one, every time you'd go between little maps, it'd go black for like half a second, and then you'd continue on. And the same thing
that might have been the loading thing that they hid.
Maybe.
Which would have been
pretty I don't
awesome.
know, but like it definitely revolutionized the series for itself, and like you said, the Z-axis, it changed everything. It created this whole new element for gaming.
Yeah, and it's something that I mean, the last game that I can remember that had it was, oh shoot, what's it called? You're like a monkey and this lady that run around and they fight stuff.
A monkey and a lady?
Yeah, it was like on the Xbox. No, it was on the PS3. Enslaved.
No, I never played that.
I think it's called Enslaved. Don't look it up. I might be wrong. Don't look it up.
I won't.
I think the PlayStation 3 is the last game I really. Or no, they still had that in on the Xbox One. They had that. They called it like a Legend of Zelda inspired one, where you're running around in the desert with the core. Is that what it's called? Maybe.
Again, I've never played that one.
Zeo, you gotta really expand your horizon on these video games.
Sometimes, yeah. Well, I never owned an Xbox, so I don't know if that was exclusive or not.
That would make sense. It was exclusive. I think it's on PC now.
Okay. Interesting.
So, hard to say. Still technically falls under the Microsoft silly Xbox exclusive thing, I guess, but...
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to move this forward a little bit to another game. So, games I don't necessarily play anymore, but I used to be hardcore into, is I used to love racing games.
Okay.
I don't know why I really got out of them. But for some reason, racing games were huge for me as a child. And I played like Gran Turismo. So that one, that one was definitely revolutionizing because it took racing games to a whole new level. Because before that, it incorporated the 3D element, right? I believe, and then it made racing less campy, if I remember, because everything was always like an arcade style racing game.
Yes.
Where you just sat behind a 2D car and you can go left and right. As this one incorporated the whole curving and braking and drifting and the dangers of racing other people. And
yeah, because it even simulated like the level of grip, or I think it was something like that, like the level of grip your vehicle's tires had on the road.
Yeah, so like it introduced a whole new realistic element to racing, which started the whole thing. But I want to take that because that's on a lot of lists. Gran Turismo is, and I want to push that even further with Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. I think that game was pretty revolutionary because it didn't just have racing in it; it also introduced a whole new element of in a sense, the world fighting back. You didn't only just race somebody, but you were also chased by a cop, which added this whole other element that.
Oh, that's right. That was before it was open world, right?
Yeah. So like you couldn't just lose the race. You could get caught by the police and then you're out.
Oh, that's right. Because they even had, you could go play the multiplayer modes so people could play as the police officer or the racer.
Yeah, you could be a police officer or the racer and you could chase your buddy.
Nice.
Try to catch him. That hasn't really been done in many games either until they remade Hot Pursuit. But like for me, that was a revolutionary concept. It wasn't just, oh, I'm going to beat you to the finish line. Now it's like, oh, I can outmaneuver you and outrace you and be smarter than you because now you have a cop car and you're technically faster than me. But I know how to do these turns better, you know?
Yeah. God, I forgot about that game. What consoles was that one out on? I played it on the GameCube.
It was on the PS1.
Okay, because I played it on the GameCube.
Sure
yeah, those are the same genre.
I don't think it was on the PS2.
I did.
Might have been Hot Pursuit 2 that was on the PS2.
Oh, maybe that's what it was. Because I think Hot Pursuit 2 came out, and then the next one was Underground, wasn't it?
Yes, and I love the Underground series. But
oh god, I love that one.
After Underground is kind of when I got out of the racing games.
Yeah, I think I played Underground 2 a little bit, but I never got into anything the same degree as Underground
1. Yeah,
because I still remember the Cobalt was my favorite car in that game.
Yep,
it just sounded cool, and it had the coolest. I don't know cars.
I loved the neon, and then I was really obsessed with like green and blues at the time, and so I'd like make all my cars like a pearlescent green and blue.
Nice.
Yep. And then
which was the drifting one? There was one of the games, the Need for Speed games that involved drifting.
That was Underground. Underground had drifting.
Was it Underground?
Yeah.
Okay, because I really enjoyed those. Those were fun. Yeah. Because it had those special maps where you'd like, sorry, that's getting, we're not talking about revolutionary anymore.
Right. But it's okay. But yeah, Gran Turismo leading into Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. I think that tends to get overlooked because it incorporated a whole new element to racing at that time as well. Yeah,
no, that definitely fits, I think, the bar for that.
Yeah.
See, the next one that I would consider to be very revolutionary is I awesomely worded in its name, Dance Dance Revolution.
Yes. Dance Dance
That
Revolution.
was one, like they had SingStar or different guitar games. I think the Guitar Hero was out before Dance Dance was.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think Dance Dance was before Guitar Hero. I'm going to look it up right now.
All right, you look that up. But
all right, you talk about it.
Dance Dance Revolution basically put rhythm action games on the map. And without it, I mean, there's a lot of the musical games that we now play we might not have had, because it made playing this kind of stuff like in the arcades now a social gathering. It was a party game, something that you'd have fun playing with friends, buddies, random people at the arcades. Like, it didn't matter, and it was a game. There was nothing like it at its time.
DDR came out in 2000, while Guitar Hero came out in 2005.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because I remember my buddy Cody had DDR. He would bring it over, and they're the mats. So, like, they had the little cord that plugged into the PS2.
Yeah.
And then they had the mats that you had to unroll. I remember he'd bring his mats over, and we'd play DDR for hours.
There was a girl that was a really close friend that was back in the time where it was kind of like, oh, I'm so quiet and shy, and I'm not going to tell anything.
Yeah.
And that's how we hung out. Was we played a lot of Dance Dance Revolution.
Oh man, so you're saying you're the Dance Dance Revolution champ?
I was terrible at it.
Oh, good.
But that's not what was important. What was important is I got to spend time with a really good friend, and I always just got to play Dance Dance Revolution while wanting it to be more.
Well, I'm going to segue that into ruining your beautiful memory of Dance Dance Revolution to challenging you to, when we meet for once in person, we're going to go find Dance Dance Revolution, and we're going to play.
I'm out of shape for that.
I am too, but it's not the point.
Can we do that thing where we only play the one where it's got those bars at the arcade so we can hold on to it, and then we just kind of lift ourselves up slightly so we don't have to put in as much effort?
we wouldn't be able to find one at a pawn shop. That would take way too long. So yeah, I know of an arcade that has it.
I have an Xbox 360 that still works, and I have Dance Dance Revolution for the Xbox 360.
So when we meet, bring your Xbox 360 and DDR, and then we'll play.
I'm pretty sure it still works.
Okay.
I think I've talked about this before, but before I bought my sandbag for a microphone stand, I had my Xbox, like the official Xbox 360 backpack with the Xbox 360 in it, and that is what sat on my microphone stand.
Oh, man.
So that my microphone didn't tip over. So.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So, for everyone listening, we're going to start a GoFundMe page so Spen and I can meet and play DDR.
I'm looking forward to it. What's the next one on your list?
So next for me, I'm trying to think. I'm going to go chronological in age, like how old I was when I played this game.
Oh, I'm not doing that at all for mine.
All right. So I'm going to... I'm going to talk about Resident Evil. I didn't want to because it was on the list, but I have to. I love Resident Evil. It's a big part of my life, and I've been playing Resident Evil 2 recently, so nostalgia's kicking in.
This one was originally on my list, but I had a hard time picking why it was revolutionary, so I'm interested to see
what I think made it revolutionary is horror games existed before.
Like Silent Hill and all those kinds.
I don't think Silent Hill was before Resident Evil.
You don't think so?
No. Here,
all right. You talk about it, I'll look it up.
Yeah, okay, cool. Horror games existed before, but I don't think any of them were popular. You know, when you played a video game, it was typically, if I remember, like action-oriented or sports-oriented. I don't think there was typically a horror game that really stood out before Resident Evil. I think Resident Evil popularized horror for gaming, I would say. Because even in the movie industry, like, horror was super popular in the 80s and then the 90s. You know, that's when games started to become ridiculously popular with the masses. And I think there hadn't been anything that really stuck out. Resident Evil just took it to new levels. It had good story elements, and I believe it was also one of the first games to where you could play multiple characters and have a different story with each character.
Oh, cool.
Because you get to play... what's her name? You get to play Chris and then the one girl, Jill. So you got to play Jill Valentine or Chris Redfield. And each of them had their own narrative. And you got different experience. So it almost felt like one game felt like two games just because of that experience. You had 2 discs, one for each character. And
that's awesome.
They also combined and worked together to create a single narrative. So like, just like Resident Evil 2, you go to a certain point with this character, then it makes you switch, and then you go to that point and you switch back and forth.
Oh, that's awesome. I never played those games.
Yeah, because you're baby pansy.
Because I never had PlayStation.
Or that, sure.
Well,
I think it was on the Dreamcast.
4...
It was actually...
I didn't even know that Dreamcast existed.
Really? Oh, dude, you were missing out. I still, to this day, think Sega was ahead of its time, and it only lost in the console wars because of, like, it just couldn't get licensing for third-party games and, like, popular games. You know what they say?
Sega does what Nintendo don't.
But anyways, like, Resident Evil, like I said, it popularized horror games, and so that's why I think it should be a revolutionary game.
Okay. No, I think that's fair. I mean, I was debating on that, and that's what I really wanted to say. Oh, and it's 1996 for Resident Evil and 1999 for Silent Hill.
Boom. Right again.
Boom.
Because I played these games, man. But yeah, like, I think a lot of people probably agree with me. Resident Evil is probably the first horror game they've ever played. You know, it was definitely the first for me.
Was one of the... I mean, I hear bits about Silent Hill, but I always hear more about Resident Evil. Like, that's the one...
Yeah. All right.
The legendary.
Let's fly through these. You're next.
Yeah. All right. So I really want to talk about this other one, but I'll go with this one first. Sid Meier's Civilization.
Okay.
Super revolutionary. Basically, it created the 4 times genre. The explore, expand, exploit, exterminate. Although that wasn't coined until 1993, but Sid Meier's Civilization, basically it established all of the core concepts for it. Right. It involved building an empire, expanding through military conquest, peaceful diplomacy, or a mixture of the two. And there was nothing else really like it at the time. The closest thing, really, I mean, you could argue, was Risk, the board game.
Okay.
And Sid Meier Civilization was the first of its kind, and I mean, it still dominates the market. And there's a whole bunch of games that come out that
kind of follow in its footsteps.
I don't know if followed in its footsteps are fair, but Civilization kind of set the foundation and said, "Hey, this is a genre," and which I would, in that consideration, I would almost say that we could argue that Civilization, of all the games we've talked about, is one of the more revolutionary games, just because it created a whole new genre. While the ones that we've talked about so far, yes, they're definitely revolutionary and they've changed a lot of stuff. They kind of took aspects or added things to something already there. Which, I mean, I don't know. You could argue it either way.
No, that's fair.
I think it's one of the more revolutionary ones we've talked about. Not trying to, say I'm better than you, Zeo, but I am. Okay. Mine was more revolutionary than yours.
That's fair. It's fine.
No, that's not how it works. You're supposed to fight back, otherwise it's not fun.
That's okay. My next one's gonna blow yours out of the water.
All right, I'm waiting.
All right, so for me, I didn't see this on any lists, and I'm kind of surprised because it may not have been at first, but I know it definitely popularized this type. So Crash Bandicoot is my next one.
Interesting.
We had platformers. They've existed for a long time. Mario made it popular. There's all kinds of games. But I think Crash Bandicoot was definitely one of the first 3Ds, I want to say. I could be wrong, but what changed it is it was no longer side to side at that point. You were going forward and backward.
Yeah.
So it changed the entire perspective of how platforming worked.
Oh, okay.
Now, again, there could be games before Crash Bandicoot, but my earliest memory tells me Crash Bandicoot was the first. Because I remember playing Mario and other games, but Crash was the first one that changed how it all looked. While Mario 64 may have added a whole new world, Crash Bandicoot added a whole new direction. Like I said, it was no longer left to right; it was forward and backward. It was fun. It was wacky. And just that new direction just changed your perspective of, wow, games can be something more than just this.
Okay, no, that's fair. I don't know. I don't know enough about those games to really have input on if it's revolutionary. I mean, from what you're saying, it definitely sounds like it's changed stuff, but I mean, maybe because revolutionary to some degree.
Because, I mean, it is a platformer, but it's one of the earliest platformers. Like, the first Crash Bandicoot, I believe, came out in, like, 95, 96.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, let me look it up real quick. Crash Bandicoot, right?
Crash Bandicoot, more like Crash Bandicoot. Am I right?
Okay, so it came out in 1996.
Thanks, Zeo.
Yeah, no problem, buddy. So it came out in 1996. And before that, honestly, like, I can't think of a game that was a platformer before that. I mean, you had Sonic, you had Mario. Those are the two biggest side-scrolling platformers I'm familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I don't think there was one before Crash Bandicoot that did that, honestly.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I was a Nintendo guy.
That's fair. I was always PlayStation.
So
a lot of mine
anything.
are going to be on PlayStation. But anyways, no, for me, Crash Bandicoot changed everything. Like, it was the first.
That's cool.
It was the first platformer I played that wasn't side scroll. Because honestly, I didn't like Mario that much. It was all right. It was fun to play with friends once in a while, but as a game on its own, it wasn't something I was interested in. For me, Crash Bandicoot felt more of a character that was relatable.
Yeah, he wasn't. Mario wasn't as cool and wacky for you.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, Crash was crazy.
All right, go ahead.
What?
Your next
You're just gonna you can't just pass it off like that with that nonchalant, like, yeah, whatever. Just here you go, Spence.
Whatever.
Fine. Well, my next one is gonna be Gears of War.
Ooh.
This is, I believe, the game solely responsible for our awesome games where you get shot a bunch, things go black and white, and you hide behind a corner until you get healed, until it comes back to full color, then you jump back out and shoot things again.
No way, that started that? That did not start that.
Yep.
What year did that come out?
Or I don't know if it started it, but it came out in 2006. And Gears of War, as far as I know, is the very first game I ever played that did that. As well as it had the now potentially infamous cover system, depending on who you talk to, but it created the cover system where you run behind stuff and you crouch behind it and you can strafe back and forth along it and you can run and dodge and jump over to the other ones. And it also had that, but I'm pretty darn sure Gears of War was the first one to do that with the gray-brown shooters, as some people like to call them.
Interesting. I never even thought about that. You know, you don't think about something so small to be revolutionary for games, but now that you're mentioning it, there are so many games that do that now. Like, that's kind of the go-to for anything shooter, and especially third-person shooter.
Yeah, but I mean, what's really neat about Gears of War is they didn't include the cover system. Like, Gears of War was built around the idea of this cover system.
Yeah,
which is crazy to think.
That is pretty crazy. Like, a whole game based around something so minor that you wouldn't think about it like being the driving force for a video game.
Yeah, but when it came out, like, it was, as far as I know, it was considered like one of the top-notch games. No, like, and possibly still one of the best cover system games still.
I never owned an Xbox, but my wife and her sister loved that game. They play that game a lot, apparently, growing up. Like, she told me so many stories about Gears of War. But my wife's also a freak and loves blood for some reason. So
she likes what?
Blood and gore. Like, she finds that very exciting in movies and video games. I don't understand why.
Interesting. You need to watch out for her.
I know. She's going to murder me one day in my sleep.
Well, if we don't hear from you.
If I don't show up at a podcast, Ben, you know why.
Yeah, I'll just send her a text since I have her number.
That's true.
I still, like, we didn't even know each other for very long. And I asked for her number and you just gave it to me.
Yep.
So I was just like, oh yeah, I'll tell your wife. You're like, how are you going to do that? And I'm like, give me your number. And then you did.
Yeah.
And then I texted her.
I'm a very trusting person.
Yeah, that's could be the death of her.
Yeah, it could be. We'll see. We'll find out if I regret this in a few years or not.
So what's the next one you got?
The next one, I really hate to mention this because I really never liked the game, but I have to because everybody I knew was playing this game. Anybody who owned a computer played RuneScape. When I was a kid.
Oh, okay.
RuneScape was that game. It was because it was free. Like, it was either RuneScape or Neopets. Like, those two things. All my friends played so much.
Oh my god. I forgot about Neopets.
Yeah, like I said, because they were free. They're browser-based games that you could just sit there and play for fun and not get charged, besides, paying for that internet.
Yeah, I also had RuneScape on my list, and I was wanting to avoid it. Not because it's a bad game, but just because I'd like to put those times behind me.
No, I agree with you. But like, what RuneScape was so revolutionary because it was one of the first. It was one of the first free to play games, and it's truly free to play. You know, it didn't have all the advertisements and stuff you get in a lot of games now, and it's still a huge community, which is insane.
Oh yeah, because don't they have the classic version back out now, or did they stop that?
I don't know, honestly. I didn't look that much into it. I just looked to see like how many people still play it, and I was blown away. I thought it would just be like 1,000 or 2,000 people.
No, it's massive.
It's freaking huge.
Well, my sister's boyfriend still plays it, and he's got he has a clan that he joined. Is it a clan or a guild? I don't remember. What's one of those two for RuneScape?
Yeah.
But when he was like 13, he joined some sort of clan, and it was a bunch of guys that were like in their 20s, and they still play together.
That's insane.
To this day.
RuneScape, like this game, it has to be on the list only because like of what it's accomplished, you know? In the beginning, it looked like trash too. It was literally like an ugly ass game. I remember looking at this.
But I mean, it needed to be that way to run on the browser for how it did.
That's true. No, you're absolutely right. But all my friends are so obsessed with this game. They're like, man, this game's so good. And I remember looking at it like, nothing about this appeals to me. Nothing.
Well, you're also not a big MMO fan.
Right. And it could be
the idea of that you don't like.
Right. And so like that's probably what started the whole me disliking MMOs because of RuneScape.
Oh, wow. See, I really enjoyed it. And I don't think it's a bad game. I still think it's a good game.
I'm not saying it's bad. It just was never my cup of tea.
I spent so much time playing it. And then it wasn't until Guild Wars came out that I left.
Really?
RuneScape. Yeah.
Okay.
I would have been one of the World of Warcraft guys, but I didn't have a credit card.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah. So I didn't get the chance to do that.
Okay.
Which I started playing it a little while ago, and it was a dangerous rabbit hole I was getting into.
I have a hard time justifying monthly payments for a video game unless I know I can commit to it like that. Like it'd have to be something I commit with other people. Because my typical like multiplayer experiences, I would enjoy more actually with people. Like if I'm gonna play an online MMO, massive multiplayer online is the point. You know, I want to play with friends and have these experiences with them.
See, that's fair. For me, I was totally fine playing games on my own. And for the most part, I played Guild Wars on my own. But that's because I've always been like a big sense of exploration has been the hugest thing for me in games, and being able to go explore places and see new things. And that's what got me going is just the idea of there's places I haven't been that are so cool that I could see, and I've just got to go out and
that idea I love. But like what turns me away is the fact that I can't share that with somebody else. You know, what I love most is like playing Desolate with you and Toll was running around, and then I say, hey guys, I'm looking at this plane, it's on fire, I'm pretty sure it just crashed, and you guys are like, whoa. That moment right there is what makes me want to.
What about the moment where you ran out into the middle of the frozen lake to go and chase this monster only to realize maybe not and come back?
Once I learn how to heal myself and keep myself warm, I'm gonna do that again, by the way.
I'm sure you can figure something out.
It's that experience that makes those games enticing for me. So like I would be on board 100% on an MMO if I had 3 people, 2 to 3, 4, I don't care how many people that I know I can consistently play with all the time.
No, that's fair.
That's what makes that experience great for me. If I play alone, I'd rather just play a single player game.
No, I guess so. See, because I'd always get into a little bit of the RP part of it where I really enjoyed playing the game and kind of building my character.
Yeah.
And MMOs really helped with that just because, I mean, there was a massive world rich with a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But they kept typically the character pretty bland. So I just got to do as I want with it.
Okay, that's fair. Anyways, Revolutionary Gabs, you're next.
Oh, that's right. So my next one is Warcraft 3.
Okay.
And it's mostly for the mostly not so much for the game of Warcraft 3, because I mean there was Warcraft 2, there was StarCraft, and I mean StarCraft is definitely, I would consider, the revolutionary one compared to Warcraft, because I think StarCraft came out first before Warcraft did. But what Warcraft had was all of the custom maps that you could make, and some of them had them as well, but Warcraft 3 birthed the MOBA genre.
That's fair.
It was Dota that was created in Warcraft 3, and from there it is now what we see today, or not as what we see today, but it started it. Okay. It created those games that suck us in and consume all of our time and money.
That's fair.
But you don't seem like the kind of guy that has played much for MOBAs, except for the one that got canceled because it wasn't as good as Fortnite.
I love MOBAs, actually.
Really?
I think MOBAs are the best games to play. Like, MOBAs are... Really? Yeah, they're so intricate, basically, because they require high skill, and they require skills from literally every version of gaming.
Oh, wow.
You have to have the hand-eye coordination. You have to have teamwork. You have to have micromanagement skills. Like, they take all elements from many different games and incorporate it into one. Like, I watch the League World Series every year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I love watching MOBAs. I just don't like playing isometric MOBAs.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I fell in love with Paragon so much. And then some people told me... Some people talk about Smite being a 3D MOBA. And yeah, it kind of is. It just doesn't have the Z-axis. So, like, it's just a third-person perspective MOBA, but it's still on one playing field. You know, it's just a flat ground. And that brought me to Paragon, because you're breaking my timeline here, but Paragon is revolutionary for me. I know the game got shut down, but I still think it's revolutionary because it added the Z-axis to the MOBA genre. It's a third-person action MOBA, and I still feel like if Epic Games never gave up on it, it would have grown to be one of the best MOBAs around. I think it would have competed with League eventually.
See, I don't think it ever had the opportunity to do that, just because of how early on they started taking people away to work.
No, I agree with you. I agree. Like, it just wasn't given the opportunity. But it had the potential. It had the skeleton. It just had an identity crisis. But with Paragon's fall, rose 3 to 4 other projects that are creating now 3D MOBAs. Similar. You've got Predecessor coming out now. You have Core. You have Phoenix Rising. And then there's other smaller ones from even smaller companies. But I think if these games are nurtured well enough and they can get some funding behind them, I believe that they can make it.
Nice.
I think one of them absolutely can. And I'm very excited to try all of those because, like I said, I do love MOBAs. I love everything about MOBAs. I just don't like isometric MOBAs.
No, that's fair. Well,
I don't like playing them, I should say. I love watching them.
I'm going to do everything in my power to someday, when time travel exists, go back in time. And I want you to know right now that I am the one that traveled back in time to Epic that said, build Fortnite. Paragon is going to fail. Just abandon it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
So I want you to know I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure I'm the one that took your favorite game from you.
Thanks, man. Thanks
no problem. That's what I'm here for.
That's all right. You're going to play Predecessor with me.
Maybe. I didn't sign up for the beta. They had too many weird requests.
It's just a questionnaire.
Yeah, but it was like, what are the specs of your computer? It's like, I don't know. It's a computer.
Just make something up.
Then I'd be lying. Then not only would I be playing a terrible game, but I'd be lying about it.
Shut up, Spen. Let's move on.
I just want people to know I don't actually know if it's terrible or not. I just know that saying it's terrible bothers Zeo.
Yeah, it does. I put so much time into that game.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right, go ahead.
This was one I originally had on my list, and then I took it off my list, and then I had it on, and I took it off just because I wasn't sure, but I finally decided that it should be on the list, and it'll make you happy. And I'm going to say Final Fantasy VII.
Yes! I was literally going to bring that up next. I was going to go back to my timeline.
And, I mean, it's not a revolutionary game in the results of what it is as a game, I would say, but it's revolutionary in the fact that it was the gateway drug for North American JRPGs.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say the same thing. It created an access point for JRPGs. It was my first introduction to JRPGs, and also it's what got me into anime as a whole.
Oh.
So, like, yeah, I'm right there with you. That's 100% why I think it's revolutionary. It created this world of JRPGs that we now are littered with because there's thousands of them that you and I don't even know titles for that are probably terrible, but there's still a gem every once in a while. It created the access point for us to have the option to play Persona, you know, and
Still haven't played that.
Eternal Sonata, a great JRPG that you and I both love.
I do like it.
But yeah, it also introduced me to anime because I remember looking at the rule book you got, or the little guide booklet you get with all those games in the past, you know, Final Fantasies, and seeing the artwork for Cloud and then Aerith and Tifa and Barret. I'm like, wow, I love this art style. And so I tried to look up more of similar art style, and then I discovered Dragon Ball Z, and that led me down even farther. Like, I really enjoyed the anime art style. So I agree with you. I mean, it wasn't revolutionary as a game.
Well, you know what they say? What is it? You can Naruto weeb run, but you can't Naruto weeb hide.
Is that what they say?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess you get to go again because I took over your Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, that's fine. Really excited. You did an excellent job at it. So, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
This one's gonna change. This one changed the game field. It led to the classic of Microsoft Kinect. It led to the classic of the PlayStation Move. It led to the amazing PlayStation Eye that we now have. All those things that we play and love dearly and use all the time and can never get enough of it because they were so successful and worked so well. Yeah, it's Wii Sports.
Okay.
Oh god, that game.
I knew that was coming. It had to be. Nintendo is really good at revolutionizing gaming.
And Wii Sports, like, wow.
Changed.
Wow, did they do it? Everything. Like, this game sold the Wii. Everybody was playing it. Your mom was playing it. Your dad was playing it. Your grandpa in a wheelchair was playing it. Your grandma in the hospital bed's playing it. It didn't matter. Everybody was playing it because everybody could.
And you know, what's funny is most people say that when something's really hyped in the world or like the news picks it up, but that is a very literal and true statement. Everybody played it.
Everybody. And this was one of those rare things where the hype was insane, but the hatred never... I mean, there was a lot of people that were like, oh, it's just so stupid, but never to the degree that you see things like Justin Bieber or all this other stuff. I mean, obviously that's a little different because you've got a bunch of like 20-some-year-old guys that hate the idea of 13-year-old girls squealing over things.
It was one of those things that almost unified the world.
Yeah.
It really was. It was just like bowling. Wii bowling.
God,
how many times did you play that just so you could master that curveball? That spin, man. And it was like, great. Yeah, I'm super good at bowling, even though nobody, you know, thought you were talking about Wii bowling because you never mentioned Wii bowling.
Yeah.
But it's still...
so many games also had, I mean, I wouldn't consider this revolutionary. A lot of games had the idea of like some sort of mascot or character that you could have as part of a console or a game or something like that. But this was the first one where it was actually like really cool and was
you could make it
awesome.
You. It wasn't just a mascot for the console. You were the mascot for the console.
Yeah. It was awesome.
No, Wii Sports was great. Like the Wii was a revolutionary console. It was just, it came out with so many creative ideas and games, and it was just a brilliant console. I remember I took it everywhere. Especially Red Steel. I don't know what Red Steel is, honestly.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, cool.
It was supposed to be revolutionary, but it was a fun game. We'll see. Okay. Right. I mean, since you didn't play it, it ruined my whole joke there.
Good.
So.
I'm glad I ruined something for you like you try to ruin Paragon for me all the time.
I don't try, all right? I just do it.
Yeah, okay. My next game
go for it.
Is
hit me with it.
Call of Duty 4.
Interesting.
So I was never into the whole shooter genre. Like, I played GoldenEye, it was fun, and I loved the multiplayer on like Conker's Bad Fur Day. But Call of Duty 4 changed everything for me. That's when I decided that, I want to be super good at this. Because when I first played it, I was terrible, and then I played it forever until I got good.
Oh, okay.
Because I ended up playing Modern Warfare 2, and then I would go to local competitions for that, and I got really good at it. But Modern Warfare 2...
Sophie rolled the tape of him being good at it?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have any evidence? No.
That's true. We don't.
Sorry, Zeo.
It's fine. You don't have to believe me. But what Call of Duty 4 did differently is because it didn't create the shooter. It didn't even create, multiplayer shooter or even online shooter. But it created the standard that made online shooters popular. This Call of Duty 4 is the blueprint for every online shooter now.
No, that's fair.
That's just it. That's what it became, the standard that every shooter is compared to, and it's the standard that every shooter is still compared to. When a lot of people talk, a lot of people still say, maybe not Call of Duty 4, but Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, which is the sequel to 4, is one of the biggest Call of Duty games and one of the best shooter games. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily balanced or perfect, but it created so much hype and fandom that we're just overloaded with so many shooters that we got so tired of it. That's how battle royales were created, because people were tired of these shooters because of how popular Call of Duty 4 was.
No, that's fair. I do like how we haven't even talked about the battle royale games. We don't even have to. You already know the answer to it.
It's true. I mean, we already know Fortnite was fucking revolutionary. Whatever. Move on.
Well, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds would be the one.
Started it. It doesn't make it revolutionary, though.
But if it wasn't for that,
pioneered. It wasn't revolutionary.
Potato, tomato, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Go ahead with your next one.
You know what? I'm gonna actually shift my list around just to one up you.
Oh yeah.
And I'm gonna talk about Doom.
Oh, so the original.
Yeah, the original game that back. Because, when Doom came out, they weren't called first-person shooters. They were called Doom clones. I'm serious. That's true.
I know, but it just sounds stupid.
It does now, but, I mean, there was nothing like it at the time. So take that, Call of Duty. You know what they say? Doom can what Nintendo don't.
Yeah, I'm not rolling with that one.
It doesn't work. There's not enough syllables in there.
Not as good.
That's okay.
You gonna cut that one out too?
No, I'm gonna leave that one in.
Sophie, one of the other Spen talking.
Yeah, Sophie doesn't edit this video. One of the other great things about Doom 2 is it was one of those nice classic games that added in that whole bountiful carnage and satanic themes that the media was able to go all over.
Ape shit about. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was gonna destroy the world and nothing was gonna be the same since. I mean, I don't really have anything else to say about Doom except for that's what it was.
You don't really need to say anything else. It's just. Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows what I'm talking about.
It started first-person shooters, yeah.
Because didn't Doom, or the guys that make Doom, I don't remember their names, but they recently just came out with a new Doom game, and it essentially is just like the classic Doom.
That's funny.
Yeah. It's good timing for a podcast for that.
Yeah.
Or at least for this item in the top. So hit me with another one, my good Zeo.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the past of... I used to be, before I was a PlayStation fanboy, I was a Sega fanboy.
Okay.
And I want to say Sonic Adventures.
What about Sonic Adventures Battle 2?
Sure. But what I'm trying to go with about Sonic Adventures, what made it revolutionary wasn't the game itself. It was a 3D platformer, whatever. Mario did it. But what changed it, what was revolutionary about it, was fascinating, was you got this little memory card, and it was basically a Tamagotchi. And what? Yeah, and so you could put it in your controller, and it would appear in the certain section of Sonic Adventures, and it was this little creature that you could raise and take care of in the game, and then you could put it right back into your memory card Tamagotchi. I'm not kidding you. It's a very real thing. Sega did a lot of stuff that was revolutionary.
Wow.
And now that I talk about it, Crash Bandicoot wasn't the first backwards and forwards platformer. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was. So Sonic the Hedgehog 3 it was a cartridge, and then it had a slot on top of it, so you could put another Sonic game on top, and it created a separate game in its own, and it was a 3D game.
Wait. Say that one more time.
So, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was a cartridge, and then it had a slot that you could put another cartridge on top of it. I don't remember what Sonic game it was. It was either Sonic Pinball or Sonic 2. It was one of those.
And it made it 3D?
And it changed the game. It created this whole new mini game inside of it.
How? What? Okay.
Hold on, I'm gonna try to. I could be insane, but I'm pretty sure that's how I remember it.
It honestly sounds like you're on drugs right now.
I know, but I'm not kidding. Like, this is how I remember it as a kid. Sonic 3 game with
That'd be
other
like
games.
putting a burger inside another burger.
I didn't plot this out to be ready for it.
Well,
I'm trying to think.
I can tell.
So otherwise, I would have been prepared with info. But let me look it up real quick.
All right. Well, you look that up.
You tell me about yours. But yeah, no, Sonic Adventures had that little Tamagotchi thing, and it revolutionized gaming. I'm surprised there isn't much more like it, because that was honestly one of my favorite parts about it.
Oh.
I'm looking it up now. Go
well,
ahead. You go through your thing.
I was going to talk about a game I've never played, Metal Gear Solid.
I've never played it either.
Okay. I was hoping you had. I did some research into it, and like there's a lot of stuff that it did where it had its like the stealth mechanics like tightly in each room, where it was kind of a unique puzzle. They had the boss battles, some of them were crazy going on there, and there was just the weird different ideas and combinations they put together with game mechanics that just made it revolutionary for its time. There was no other game like it, and it just, I mean, it does. I was really banking on you having played it. Because what is it? There was even one of the Metal Gear Solid games where I think maybe it was the first one where it would read your memory card. And there's a moment where some character's talking to you or whatever it was, and it would start spouting stuff about the things you've achieved in different games. Yeah. And it had some really weird stuff. But I think the biggest thing for it, though, was it was one of the first games that really decided that gamers and just games in general were pretty much ready to tell stories that took on more of like adult themes, and it really helped take a big massive step forward for the industry in that regard. Okay, here it is. So what Sonic and Knuckles did is you could put the game into it, and it introduced new elements to the game. So this lock-on technology it had, you could also play as Sonic or Knuckles. It also gave you new things to collect, like super emeralds, and you get special stages with it. So it changed the games of Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 by just getting this one cartridge called Sonic and Knuckles. Nice. Because they were all initially developed as one game. God, I can't think of another game that's done anything like that.
So like I'm not seeing anything about a 3D world, so I could be crazy about that part.
I do
remember changing elements of the game because you could put this game on top of another game.
Nice. Wait. So one game went on top of another game, and then another game came out.
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling me here?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Smiley, if you're watching this, can you draw that fan art for us? Because we're pretty much out of time for the podcast, but we can always just list off things that we haven't talked about yet that are still on the list.
Yeah. So I noticed one thing on your list that isn't on mine, but I took it a step further. So you had Pokemon Red and Blue.
Yeah.
Why'd you have those?
I had them on there because, I never fleshed out the rest of the information for it. I had them on the list because I felt it was revolutionary, especially just for its time. It was one of there weren't very many games that had the open world, and you don't really think of open world when you think of Pokemon Red and Blue, but that's essentially what it was.
Yeah.
When it came out, I think the closest thing we had was Grand Theft Auto out yet at that time? The original?
Maybe.
I don't know then. Maybe I'm on drugs.
I took it a step further and I said Pokemon Yellow. I think Pokemon Yellow was more revolutionary than Red and Blue because it took the elements of Red and Blue. It had the better graphics naturally, and then it also gave you the option to have a Pokemon follow you. So it gave you this more intimate connection with your starter Pokemon. And it was the only Pokemon game that did that until recent times when they started to allow it to happen again. I believe the first game after that was like Fire Red and Leaf Green.
Well, because in Pokemon Yellow, it almost felt like if you didn't have Pikachu following you, then you were silly.
Right, because
you had the ability for it. So in some ways, it kind of felt limiting. But that really just comes down to people
people in perspective.
Yeah.
I would say honorable mentions, definitely Mortal Kombat, fighting game. It definitely made fighting games ridiculously popular after Mortal Kombat. But Street Fighter came out before Mortal Kombat. So Street Fighter is also one of those things that started the competitive fighting game genre.
Yeah. Because that's been out for a while. That was on Super Nintendo? I think that's when I played it.
I had possibly,
yeah, the original Street Fighter was Super Nintendo.
Yeah, because I had it for the Sega.
Ew, gross.
Yeah. Another thing, I would say Uncharted was pretty revolutionary for a game. What made Uncharted revolutionary wasn't anything about the game itself, but how it was made. It was one of the first games to use mocap the entire time.
Oh, did it?
It didn't introduce mocap. I think there's a fighting game that did mocap first. But pretty much the entire game is mocap filmed.
Oh, that's awesome. It explains why everything looks so nice.
That's why it's so nice and so cinematic, is because it was filmed basically as a movie. And they incorporated it into be a video game.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that became the staple of what Naughty Dog makes today. We wouldn't have had the Uncharted series or The Last of Us without that.
Nice.
I do have one last one I want to go in length with, but I want you to have some honorable mentions.
Okay. So I had Grand Theft Auto 3,
yes.
San Andreas. I think that was San Andreas, right?
Nope, it was just
Liberty
San
City?
Andreas.
No. San
Grand
Andreas
Theft
came
Auto.
out after, but Grand Theft Auto 3.
Yeah, it was just
Definitely.
Grand Theft Auto 3.
Yeah. So there was that one. I also had Tetris.
Oh, of course. Tetris.
Yeah. StarCraft, which I mentioned before.
Yep.
Tomb Raider. That's another one.
Oh, yeah, Tomb Raider.
Because that was the first one with
like
the 3D exploration type stuff that they had in that one. Was
title, yeah.
Yeah, it was new for its time. Diablo. It popularized the idea of RPG, like action RPGs.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of action RPGs at the time were slow paced, but this one was more of just killing stuff, dropping loot.
Mm-hmm.
The only other, I'll just list off the last four that I've got: Minecraft, Revolutionary, Metroid, Myst, and Shenmue. And those are what I've got for the rest of mine.
Okay.
Oh, and Farmville.
Farmville. Farmville.
Gotta admit,
isn't Farmville the first game that did microtransactions?
I don't know.
I think
but
is.
It's one of the first ones.
I think it's the ones that definitely showed the world that, hey, you can make a shit ton of money by making people pay for tiny little stuff that doesn't matter.
And it was also one of those ones where people of all ages were playing it, but mostly my mom.
Everyone's mom. Okay.
All right, so what's this one you want to go over?
So I think this is going to blow your mind. I'm not sure if you knew this thing
Challenge
existed.
accepted.
Okay. So like I said, before I was a Sony fanboy, I was a Sega fanboy.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I was a Sega fanboy is because as a child, Sega was my first console. I had the Nintendo, but that was bestowed upon me from my sisters.
Okay.
This was my first console. And one of the things I had with it was called the Sega Channel. Now,
I have no idea what that is.
What made the Sega Channel so revolutionary? This is why Sega was always ahead of its time. The Sega Channel was a game thing. It was basically a game you'd plug into your console, but it wasn't a game. It plugged into your cable, and you would have a rotating roster of games every month for a subscription fee. It was the very first subscription gaming thing. I'm not kidding. So you think
really?
Everyone thinks like PlayStation Now and Xbox or whatever subscriptions you get for playing games was great. The Sega Channel started it first. It did it way back in like 1995 or 4.
Through your
I remember
cable.
being through your cable. And so it had a rotating roster every month, and then I believe it even like some games would rotate weekly.
Wow.
And it was it was, so I never ran out of video games playing on the Sega as a child.
You had that. You had the subscription for it. And that was back in the old days where you had to mail your check in.
Yep, my mom got it for me because we were super poor, and it was one thing I could keep myself entertained and without having to get a bunch of new stuff all the time. So
that's awesome.
I remember the Sega Channel had a rotating roster, and so it introduced me to so many Sega games that I fell in love with.
If only Sega had waited 15 years.
Right? It's insane because...
And then it still would have been too early.
Yeah. But like it started this whole subscription gaming thing, and it was brilliant. Yeah. And it worked out great. Like I remember playing hundreds of different Sega games.
Wow. I didn't even know there were that many games on the Sega.
Yeah. There's a lot of games on the Sega. They just weren't popular.
Well, I guess that was back in the big gaming boom, though.
Yeah, it was. So I just
Everybody and
pulled
their
up
dog was
Wikipedia.
making video games.
So Sega Channel was an online game service developed by Sega for the Genesis video game console.
Wow.
Launching December 1994. Yep. So Sega Channel was provided to the public by TCI, Time Warner Cable, through cable television services through a coax cable. It was a pay-to-play service where customers could access Genesis games online, play game demos, and get cheat codes. In North America, it was dubbed the Telegenesis, was announced, never released. It was utilized by cable television, and over 21 cable companies signed up for the service, so it was huge and popular. It was approximately $15 a month with a $25 activation fee.
That's not bad. And that's like our time, $15? Or is that $15 for their time?
For their time. I don't know.
Wow.
It doesn't say inflation.
All right, so it's probably $15 then.
Yeah, but yeah, it was basically like an adapter you'd plug into your Sega Genesis, and you could just play.
Wow.
I remember it popping up, and like you could go through all the game lists and play any game and they would rotate every month.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Who would have thought? You know, people think it was a new concept and stuff. Like this is new, but it's been out for almost 30 years.
Sega really did what Nintendo didn't.
That's the one thing. Like, I could talk about Sega a lot. Like, its biggest flaw is I don't think it just got to the right audience, and I think it was way too far ahead of its time because it was one of the first consoles to introduce discs to video games. It did it before PlayStation did.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. Yeah, because that was wasn't the Dreamcast discs?
Yeah, it was the Dreamcast.
Wow.
Yep. I always loved Sega, and I always thought they were my favorite console until after the Dreamcast when it died, and then I switched to PlayStation.
Wow, rest in peace.
Yeah, but that's crazy.
I can't believe they. Wow, I'm speechless.
I told you it'd blow your mind, man. Like I remember telling so many of my friends about this, and nobody ever had it. Like nobody I knew Sega Channel existed except me. And so like people were like, "That sounds stupid. It doesn't sound real." I'm like, I'm not kidding you. Like this is the only experience. I played so many games as a child. It was all on the Sega Channel.
Because when you first said it, the only thing that crossed my mind is, I'm like, does he plug it into the cable and then it shows TV, but you just like play Pong over it? Like,
yeah.
But no, it was a subscription for games back when. Wow.
That kind of thing wasn't even thought about or heard of. And like it was so out there, but apparently it was it was great. It only lasted a few years, but
I mean, was it revolutionary though?
To me, it was.
It definitely was. No, I was trying to think of a way I could twist that around to take this from you, because that's, man, if this was a competition, Zeo, you just took it home. I'm
just saying, man, like, it had to be, just because, like, you have PlayStation Now, and that's like $40 a month, and you don't get anywhere near as many games as you got on the Sega.
Yeah.
I think subscription service for gaming is a good idea. I just don't think we're quite there yet.
See, I don't know. Because I got EA Origin.
Right.
Or EA Access, whatever it is. And at first I thought it was dumb, but I picked it up because it was the same price as me buying Anthem and a couple other games that I wanted. Well, it would have been more expensive if I just bought the other games. And more games have come out already since I've bought it, and I've only had it for a couple months, and I'm making money off of it.
I think Origin is doing it right. I think Origin's taking a step, because if you break up, you pay what, $100 a year annually?
I think so. It's close to that. It's like $60 to $100.
$100 annually is less than $10 a month. The problem with like PlayStation Now is it's like $40 a month. It's just too pricey. They need to dial that back, and they need to do something like Origin, you know? I think Origin does it right. I think that's the great way. I mean, you charge people annually, so you get all your money up front. That's fine.
You know what they say, Zeo? Origin does what Nintendo don't.
But yeah, no, I think we could talk about subscription service and is it good for gaming later. But I think it's a great direction for gaming. Again, I just think as a whole we're not there yet.
I still can't get over that Sega had that. That's incredible.
I know, right? Like, it makes you wonder, how did they fail? How could that company have failed with something so amazing?
But I mean, if you look at, like, Nintendo did a whole bunch of stuff too that was way ahead of its time. Like, it had VR so many years ago. It just wasn't there.
It wasn't the time yet. Yeah.
That's pretty much all the time we have for the Son of a Geek podcast.
Son of a Geek.
Sucks because I just want to talk more about Sega here, which I never thought I would say. I honestly never thought I would say that.
Maybe we should do a podcast about Sega. That'd be interesting.
We very possibly could. Although I've never really played anything from Sega.
Well, I think that could be an interesting thing. We should talk about like the rise and fall of Sega. Because again, like I still stand by, I think Sega was just ahead of its time. I think if Sega was a console that was released maybe 10, 15 years later, I think it'd be one of the competitors.
It's possible. But I guess we'll never know.
Never know.
Never know.
Until we talk about it, then maybe we will know.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, that's true. We'll forget about this topic.
No, well, I don't know. Smiley, if you can remind us about that.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Comments. Every comment until we finally talk about it.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, Spen, did you play The Last of Us?
I don't have much time left. It's coming out in October. And I can't have you spoil it. No. All right, bye.
Bye.
I'll play it eventually.